Good morning, this is Tamara Buchan from Reclaim Initiative. Today is Sunday, October 11th, and it is day 23 as we approach the 2020 elections. Our focus today is on transitions of seasons, a vitally important subject, and one that will help provide context for what is taking place right now and making this year of 2020 so difficult. My text is Matthew 24, but before I read it, I would like to start with some introductions. Specific seasons of history have taken place, especially throughout the Christian faith, and I'd like to explore some of them as context for what is taking place right now. The first one is sacrificial. It was as the Jewish people became God's chosen people, but it had very limited access. It was only for the Jews, and men had greater access than women, and if you were a priest, you had greater access. And if you were a high priest, you got to go into the Holy of Holies one time a year. Most of the world stood on the sidelines watching. But when Jesus came, he said, God so loved the whole world, and he opened his arms wide to everyone, and he became the final sacrifice. So because he was the final and complete sacrifice for all time, everything leading up to that had pointed towards him, the sacrificial season was no longer needed. And so there became this transition period where the sacrificial season began to die, and the New Testament church that was being birthed began to take root and to grow and spread like wildfire. So Jesus died in approximately AD 33, and the temple in Jerusalem, where sacrifices were made, only in Jerusalem, was destroyed in AD 70. So there was a transition period of 37 years where the sacrificial system continued to operate while the New Testament church was being birthed. But there was a moment where that season, the sacrificial system was absolutely over. So, in the 3rd century, the church season was birthed. That's when Constantine declared Christianity the official religion. And that's been going on for all this time, 1700 years-ish. And now we're in a transition where the kingdom age is being birthed. And we're in that period right now where the church season is beginning to be deconstructed, and the kingdom age is advancing, because the two ages cannot exist simultaneously for a long time. They can coexist in a short time, but that period is always filled with a lot of upheaval and disequilibrium and shifting and changing, and it's always very exciting to live in, but it's always very disconcerting to live in. So now we can look to Matthew 24 to see what Jesus says about these transitions of seasons. Starting in verse 1. As Jesus was leaving the temple courts, his disciples came to him and pointed out the beautiful aspects of the architecture of the temple structures. And Jesus turned to them and said, "Take a good look at all these things, for I'm telling you there will not be one stone left upon another. It will all be leveled." Later, when they arrived at the Mount of Olives, his disciples came privately to where he was sitting and said, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what supernatural sign should we expect to signal your coming and the completion of this age?" There it is. Jesus answered, "At this time, deception will run rampant. Beware you are not fooled. For many will appear on the scene claiming my authority or saying about themselves, 'I am God's anointed,' and they will lead many astray. You will hear of wars nearby and revolutions on every side, with more rumors of wars to come. Don't panic or give in to your fears, for the breaking apart of the world systems is destined to happen. But it won't yet be the end. It will still be unfolding. Nations will go to war against each other and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be terrible earthquakes, seismic events of epic proportions, horrible epidemics, and famines in place after place. This is how the first contractions and birth pains of the new age will begin. Sobering, isn't it? But this is what Jesus said. So just a few points. Take a look at the temple, for not one stone will be left upon another. It will all be leveled. So when he said it will all be leveled, he was speaking both of the temple itself, but also of the sacrificial system. Take a good look at it, guys, because it's going away. And then he said, deception will run rapid. In times of transitions, when things are shifting, there's a greater ability to deceive people. And so the counterfeit rises up, and it becomes very persuasive and can really take us off point. And that's why it's so important for us to exercise discernment and to stay in community with people who are going in the same direction. And here's just one example of what's happening right now that's very concerning. There is new technology available that can create videos and voices of people saying things that they really didn't do, saying and doing things that they didn't do. I came home last night and Bill was watching a TV show about that very thing. It's very real and it's happening. And so we can't believe everything, even if our eyes are seeing it and our ears are hearing it, it may not be true. That's why we need to take everything to the Lord before we believe it, hook, line, and sinker. And then this is the part that really got my attention a few months ago. For the breaking apart of the world's systems is destined to happen. So boy, the Lord told me a few years ago this is what he was planning to do, but I could never imagine what it was going to look like. Well, there's the epidemic, the pandemic, because it's international, that has overtaken our world and continues to shut one thing down after another. And even as we try to reopen things, it often gets shut back down. So we're watching the breaking apart of the world systems right now. And this is not an accident, and it's not something beyond God's control. It's something that he is allowing to happen because he has something much better for us in mind, and he's bringing it forth. That's the part that we can't forget, guys. God has something so much better and so much more fulfilling, and it will bring forth the reclamation and the restoration of all things. And we get to participate in it. This is a moment of history to live for. But it's not easy. It takes deeper root systems, and we need to develop them. And then finally, Jesus says there's going to be wars, there's going to be earthquakes, there's going to be horrible epidemics and famines in place after place. And this is a sign of the first contractions and birth pains that the new age, the new season of the kingdom age will begin. So we're living in this time of that, where two seasons are seeking to be in the same space, and something has to deconstruct so the new can construct. So it's important for us to keep looking up. It's important for us to ask to see with Jesus' eyes. It's important for us to develop greater root systems, because here's the deal. If we keep trying to do the same thing that we've always done, it's not going to lead to the same result. We're going to hit a brick wall. It's just going to push us back further. We have to ask the Lord, what's the new thing that you want me to adopt? So today, as part of a response, I'm asking for you to spend some time asking the Lord, what do you want me to let go of? What's not serving you or me any longer? And what's one new thing you want me to adopt? And just start with that, because it'll just give you a sense of the new. And if you ask him, trust what you hear. Trust what comes into your mind. If you ask the question, he loves to answer us. So there you go. This is a sobering message, but it's also a message of great opportunity. And I just want to end by praying for you and asking for the Lord to give you wisdom and courage and perseverance and great discernment and even joy in the midst of the challenge. Amen. Have a great day.